John and Ken Show. John Cobell and Ken Champeau, KFI AM 640.
All right, well, we're talking about the California legislature, Sacramento. They're done pretty much for the year. I think they just come back for a short time in December. And they're very proud of themselves because they're the Trump resistance, despite all the problems we have in the state of California that they won't address. So all they want to do is pass bills that look like they're anti-Trump.
Do you know how many?
A lot of them deal with illegal immigration.
Oh, well, they introduced 35 anti-Trump bills. 35. 4 have become law or part of the state budget. 8 are on the governor's desk. A lot of them just flamed out. And there were 24 resolutions with just a list of insults.
A list of insults.
It is a list of insults. Like the latest one is they passed a resolution demanding Trump apologize for his existence.
I don't know why they think they're that important.
They're buffoons.
In the whole debate.
This is the worst legislature any democracy has ever had in any state, in any nation. The absolute worst. We can go through a mind-numbing list of terrible things that have gone wrong here in California, and you know it, you live it. That's why many people have left. And still these dumb sacks of rocks carry on with anti-Trump, this, that, and the other thing. Do they think he's going to help when it's going to come time for California to ask for help? I've never seen any. This is what little toddlers do when they break off into cliques in nursery school. They don't like one of the other kids, so they all band together to taunt him and call him names.
They also passed a bill which is going to move the state's primary up to earlier in the election year. The idea, again, California's 2020 presidential primary for both parties is supposed to move from June to March. I thought we did this once years ago. I thought we did, and then they gave up on it.
Yeah, they went back.
Because nobody voted or something, or it still didn't matter? I don't remember why.
I don't know. There's always a tug-of-war between the National Party and the local parties. Because nationally, they didn't want California going up front because California is so big they could decide the nominee really early, and then you don't really have necessarily the best candidate rising to the top.
Oh, I see.
You know, it depends on what your political philosophy is. Some people say, no, let's have a real primary season. Let's get the best guy. Let's make sure he's battle-tested. Let's make sure there aren't some glaring weaknesses that you only find out when you run a competitive race. So California skews everything because it's 20% of the total.
Yeah, 20% of the Democratic delegates in California are in the primary. That's right.
So the way the Washington Post tries to slant it is how California could make Trump re-election more difficult.
Now, yes, and they cited several votes, including that California would be one of the first states to vote for president. They actually also passed a bill requiring presidential candidates to share their tax returns. That still bothers them. So Trump wants to get on the ballot in California.
He'd have to show his tax.
Right.
For how long?
To state officials.
I mean,
yeah, it's a good point. The entire history of his tax returns, or just the last 10 years, or...
By the way, the tax issue is dead.
Yeah.
2 returns got released.
He kept saying he would release them when the audit's over.
Yeah. Well, audit's still going on.
It probably is. It's probably audited all the time.
Remember, 1 return was leaked, which showed that he paid no taxes because he was carrying over his real estate losses in the 1990s. And then he released another set of returns that showed he was paying, what, $40 million in taxes that year?
Right.
So we've seen a tax return that's zero. We've seen a tax return of $40 million. Who cares what the rest of them are? I mean, I don't care about his tax returns.
No, they keep thinking they're going to find Russians in there. That's what they're looking for.
This is stupid. By the way, it says here that, you know, if somebody who wins California early for the Democrats could end up being the nominee, and it could boost people like Kamala Harris and Eric Garcetti. Do you think Yoga Pants is going to make it as a national candidate across the country?
I did see that part. I laughed at that.
Seriously. Who outside of the weenie districts of Los Angeles thinks Eric Garcetti is going to be some kind of national political hero? I mean, he's a fop.
A fop.
He's this silly.
What does that stand for? Friend of.
He's a silly, fussy little West Side weenie. Remember, outside of the California bubble, Trump won by 1.7 million votes. He's the president of the other 49 states. And here, the Democrats are trying to give a boost to yoga pants. What's he going to run on, his gridlock record? And Kamala Harris, who's the biggest bore I've ever seen.
That's because...
I mean, she is a snooze.
The party is tired of Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, all the old people, Feinstein. They're looking for the young blood.
They ought to look at the polls because Bernie's cleaning up in the polls over all the other candidates. That would be hysterical if they get stuck with, what is he, going to be almost 80 by 2020? Imagine if Democrats get stuck with Bernie.
All right, Trump crossed another line on Twitter. How dare he? More coming up.
John and Ken, KFI, Deborah Marquez News.